Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, Mr. President, mission complete. Nation bids farewell to George H.W. Bush. Let's take a listen to the video. Sorry about that, everyone.
One reason Dad knew how to die young is that he almost did it. Twice. When he was a teenager, a staph infection nearly took his life. A few years later, he was alone in the Pacific on a life raft, praying that his rescuers would find him before the enemy did. God answered those prayers. It turned out he had other plans for George H.W. Bush. None of his disappointments could compare with one of life's greatest tragedies, the loss of a young child. Jeb and I were too young to remember the pain and agony he and Mom felt when our 3-year-old sister died. We only learned later that Dad, a man of quiet faith, prayed for her daily. Last Friday, when I was told he had minutes to live, I called him. The guy answered the phone, said I think he can hear you, but he hadn't said anything for most of the day. I said, Dad, I love you and you've been a wonderful father. And the last words he would ever say on earth were, I love you too. To us, he was close to perfect, but not totally perfect. His short game was lousy. He wasn't exactly Fred Astaire on the dance floor. The man couldn't stomach vegetables, especially broccoli. And by the way, he passed these genetic defects along to us. Of course, Dad taught me another special lesson. He showed me what it means to be a president who serves with integrity, leads with courage, and acts with love in his heart for the citizens of our country. When the history books are written, they will say that George H.W. Bush was a great president of the United States, a diplomat of unmatched skill, a commander-in-chief of formidable accomplishment, and a gentleman who executed the duties of his office with dignity and honor. And we're going to miss you. Your decency, sincerity, and kind soul will stay with us forever. So through our tears, let us know the blessings of knowing and loving you, a great and noble man, the best father a son or daughter could have. And in our grief, let us smile knowing that Dad is hugging Robin and holding Mom's hand again.
Okay, and there you go on that video. Story of George H.W. Bush on New Hampshire primary trail draws laughed at the service. Let's take a listen to the video.
Get jingly at the Made in New England Expo. Experience the incredible array of New England.
On the primary campaign trail in New Hampshire once, he grabbed the hand of a department store mannequin asking for votes. When he realized his mistake, he said, "Never know, gotta ask." You can hear the voice, can't you? As Dana Carvey said, the key to a Bush 41 impersonation is Mr. Rogers trying to be John Wayne.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. President George W. Bush hands piece of candy to Michelle Obama ahead of father's funeral. Let's take a listen to the video. Okay, and there you go on that video. He gave Michelle Obama a piece of chocolate, a candy. Replicating a sweet moment from the last time the two met publicly, former President George W. Bush and former First Lady Michelle Obama are putting their unique friendship on full display again. This is what will happen to Sully, George H. W. Bush's beloved service dog. The pup will continue helping others, just as he helped our 41st president. On Tuesday, friends and family visited the U.S. Capitol Rotunda to pay their respects to George H. W. Bush, who died on November 30th. Among those in the crowd was Sully, the late president's service dog. While there, Sully, escorted by Americans Vet Dogs Service Dog Program Manager Valerie, wore an American flag vest and sat in front of his late owner's casket for a moment of silence. Bush and Sully formed a unbreakable bond after the pup was welcomed into the former president's home in June of this year. Now that Golden Labrador's time with Bush has ended, he will continue his work in helping others. And look at this photo. Mission complete. While it's still unclear as to who Sully's next handler will be, it's safe to say that they will love the Golden Lab, just like Bush did. New Hampshire lawmakers vote to give Bill Gardner 22nd term as Secretary of State. After a second vote, New Hampshire lawmakers have voted to keep incumbent Secretary of State Bill Gardner in office. Lawmakers had already voted once Wednesday afternoon by secret paper ballot on their choice for Secretary of State, but neither candidate got a majority, so another round of votes was needed. In the first vote, Gardner, the nation's longest-serving Secretary of State, received 208 votes, while challenger Colin Van Osten received 207 votes. A vote of 209 was needed to win. When lawmakers voted again, Gardner received 209 votes, and Van Osten received 205 votes. Gardner has been criticized for serving on President Donald Trump's election fraud commission. His supporters argued that replacing him with fellow Democrat and 2016 governor nominee Colin Van Osten would politicize the office and would weaken the state's argument for staying first. Van Osten continued that primary tradition is about more than any one person, and that Gardner's already politicized the office by backing GOP-led voter registration legislation. World War II veteran battling cancer pensions government for Purple Heart. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Mike Cherry.
There's no disputing that Army veteran Francis Byrne is an American hero.
Were you a good shot?
Pretty good. I didn't usually miss what I was shooting at.
Today, at age 94, Byrne has something different in his sights. On a wall full of medals and badges, there remains a glaring omission.
This is going to be my Purple Heart if I ever get it.
He fought in the Battle of the Bulge and was on the 5th wave that landed on Omaha Beach. But his luck turned nearly 75 years ago while walking through a landmine field in Belgium.
And the kid about 30 feet away from me stepped on one, and a piece of shrapnel hit me right there. Still there in the bone.
Byrne survived. His lieutenant, who had promised to fill out paperwork for the Purple Heart, was killed the next day. Through retirement, Byrne lived with a sharp pain in his leg.
Like a toothache right now.
If awarded the Purple Heart, Byrne would be owed decades of wounded soldier back pay, but he insists the government can keep the money.
Need everything because I don't know how much time I got to live.
2 months ago, he was diagnosed with terminal bladder cancer. Byrne's family believes it's the soldier's spirit that's keeping him alive.
He took a turn and then he just is not ready to give up. He's not going to give up until he gets that medal.
And Mr. Byrne's fight has captured the attention of lawmakers.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen released a statement on his behalf, saying in part, Mr. Byrne deserves the Purple Heart for his extraordinary sacrifice and courage. I will exhaust every possible option to secure approval of Mr. Byrne's application.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And just coming into our newsroom right now, we have learned that George H.W. Bush's casket has arrived in Texas, where the former president's remains will lie in repose at St. Martin's Episcopal Church before his burial. And take a look at this live video of the plane at the airport right now. And we will keep you updated for tomorrow's events as well, like we did today for the funeral. Stay with us for the Riley King Network for complete coverage. George H.W. Bush's funeral. Here's a rundown of the financial markets that are open and closed. As a nation remembers George Herbert Walker Bush, the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ are closed Wednesday, with stock trading resuming Thursday on normal schedule. The U.S. Treasury market is also closed Wednesday. The ADP jobs data normally released on Wednesdays and the Labor Department's productivity report are postponed until Thursday. Federal Reserve's Chairman Jerome Powell's testimony to Joint Economic Committee of Congress has also been postponed. Trading in energy and material futures are open for their normal hours Wednesday. Wednesday is a national day of mourning in honor of Bush, the country's 41st president. A state funeral for Bush, who died Friday at 94, will be held Wednesday morning at the Washington National Cathedral. The last presidential funeral was in 2007 for General Ford. U.S. Stocks Exchange Index futures are open until 9:30 a.m. Eastern and will reopen Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern as normal. Trump optimistic on trade despite Wall Street woos. Let's take a listen to the video. Okay, we're waiting for...
Closed today in honor of former President George H.W. Bush's funeral. The break coming on the heels of that major plunge, the Dow Jones suffering its fourth biggest point drop ever. Our chief economic correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, is on Wall Street. And Rebecca, did a tweet from the president play a role in the drop?
Well, good morning, Michael. And a key issue here on Wall Street is confusion over the true prospects for a deal with China on tariffs. Coming out of the G20 summit, it sounded from the White House like there was a very real possibility of a long-term deal being struck. But in a series of tweets yesterday from President Trump, we received some mixed signals to that effect. President Trump calling himself in those tweets a tariff man, saying that a deal will probably happen. Now, keep in mind, China and this tariff issue has been a large overhang over the markets for some time now, really over the last 3 months, where you've seen stocks drop about 7%. And the key question is what impact this prolonged effect of tariffs will have on both businesses and consumers. The other major issue here on Wall Street is the U.S. economy. Today, we are on sound footing. The economy continues to grow. You have unemployment at its lowest rate since 1969. Wages are growing, and we just came out of one of the most record holiday seasons in terms of Black Friday. But the question is this as good as it gets? And with a lot of investors looking at 2019 as a year of things slowing down, that's what's making them sell stocks these days. Michael?
All right, thank you, Rebecca, and I'm sure it affects those retirement accounts out there as well.
You're right.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. Good night, everyone. Bye.